We've always had this idea of ourselves as the ultimate super predator, right? The undisputed kings of the jungle, the top of the food chain. But what if that's not quite right? What if it's all just a myth? Let's dig into that.
And hey, it makes sense why we'd think that. I mean, our entire history is filled with stories of us hunting, trapping, and fishing. We've changed entire ecosystems on a scale that really no other species even comes close to. So it's pretty natural to assume that whenever we walk into the woods, every animal out there sees us as public enemy number one.
But is that really the whole story? I mean, what if animals see us with a little more nuance than we give them credit for? There's some incredible new research that's challenging this whole idea, and it suggests a much, much more complex relationship between us and the rest of the animal kingdom.
So to really get to the bottom of this, a team of researchers at the Indian Institute of Science did something huge. They went back and reviewed 30 years of studies on animal behavior. They basically wanted to ask one simple question. Do animals react to all humans in the exact same way?
Well, the lead author of the study, Sean D'Souza, he put it perfectly. The short answer, a big, fat no. As it turns out, animals are way more perceptive about what we're up to than we've probably ever imagined.
And here's the absolute key to what they found. Animals are, for sure, afraid of what the researchers call lethal humans, hunters and fishers. When those folks are around, animals are on high alert. But when non-lethal humans like tourists or scientists show up, their reactions are way weaker, much more varied. It's like they can actually tell the difference.
So the researchers looked at three main behaviors: feeding, vigilance, and movement. And this gets right to the heart of the trade-off that every animal has to make, every single day. See, every second an animal spends looking over its shoulder for a hunter is a second it's not eating. It's this constant, high-stakes calculation of risk versus reward, and it all comes down to what kind of human they think they're dealing with.
Okay, so we've established that animals are smart enough to tell the difference between a threat and just a person. But this is where the study uncovered something that is just so surprising, a finding that really flips that whole super predator idea completely on its head.
Yep, you heard that right. In some situations, animals actually became less watchful when they were near human areas. So instead of seeing us as this universal, terrifying threat, they were actually using our presence as a sign of safety. How wild is that?
So, why on earth would that happen? Well, it seems to come down to a couple of things. First, the really big predators that hunt these animals, we're talking wolves, bears, big cats, they tend to steer clear of us. This creates what you could call a human shield, a kind of safe zone for their prey. And second, things like cleared roadsides can actually be great places for smaller grazing animals to find food. It's all a really complex game of risk and reward.
Now, this behavior isn't just a fluke. It's a super calculated decision. And believe it or not, there's a scientific theory that explains exactly what's going on in an animal's head when it decides to trust us or not.
It's called the risk allocation hypothesis. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It just means that animals don't have a simple on-off switch for fear. Instead, they're constantly adjusting their behavior based on how bad and how predictable a threat really is. If danger is constant, they stay on edge. But if it's rare, or if it happens at predictable times, they might actually decide to chill out.
So let's try to break that down. Imagine you're an animal. You see a human. First, you have to assess the threat level. Is this a place where hunters pop up all the time? If the answer is yes, you dial up your defenses. You're way more vigilant, you spend less time eating. But if it's a national park where the only humans you see are carrying cameras, you might learn to lower your guard and save all that precious energy for finding your next meal.
All right, so animals are way more discerning than we thought. Cool fact. But why does this actually matter? Well, it's a huge deal because these little individual choices don't just happen in a bubble. They can send shockwaves across an entire ecosystem.
Think of it like a ripple effect. These tiny shifts in fear can completely change predator-prey dynamics. They can alter where animals graze, which affects plant life, which then affects the stability of the whole environment. And, maybe most importantly for us, it has a direct impact on human-wildlife conflict. And understanding this lets us be so much smarter about conservation. For example, this research suggests that in some cases, limited, predictable culling might actually be more effective at keeping animals away from human areas than other strategies because it taps into their natural ability to assess risk.
And this research is far from over. Scientists now want to build better predictive models, factoring in stuff like the specific species, its past experiences with humans, and the local predator community. They're also asking a really deep question.
Are these animals just adapting their behavior, or are we actually driving real evolutionary change?
So this whole idea of humans as one single, monolithic super predator, it's pretty much a myth. Animals see us not just as one thing, but as many different things. A hunter, a tourist, a scientist, or sometimes even a shield. And that leaves us with a really important question to think about. Knowing that they see us so differently, how should we change the way we live alongside the wild world?